When people think about sex, the first thing that usually comes to mind is the act itself, the movement, the positions, the techniques. But if we're being real, those are just the surface level parts of the experience. What truly makes intimacy unforgettable is not the mechanical motion of bodies. It's the connection that breathes life into it. You can have all the right positions, the ones magazines rave about, the ones listed on clickbait articles, but if the connection isn't there, it can feel hollow, repetitive, and transactional. On the other hand, even the simplest position, held with true presence, emotion, and vulnerability, can feel like fire. It's not the shape your bodies make, it's the energy that flows between you. Think about it this way: when two people lock eyes and there's electricity in the air, when you feel that hunger in someone's touch, when every kiss feels like it's saying, "I can't get enough of you," that's when desire explodes. That's when control is lost. It's not because of the technical genius of a position. It's because of the emotional weight and psychological charge behind it. A position is just a stage. The real performance is the chemistry you bring onto that stage. This is where so many people get it wrong. They obsess over how to move, how to look, how to do it like someone else, how to replicate what they've seen. But sex isn't choreography. You're not performing for a silent audience who's going to grade you at the end. Sex is about making someone feel something so raw, so consuming, that they forget everything else. And you don't do that by executing a perfect pose. You do it by pouring your emotion, your desire, and your intent into it. When you're not worrying about whether you look perfect or if you're doing it right. You give yourself permission to be present. And presence is magnetic. Now here's the part that flips everything: the body follows the mind. When you're emotionally tuned in, when you're lost in each other's energy, your body naturally moves in ways that feel good. You don't even have to think about it. You'll instinctively shift, adjust, change rhythm, or hold still longer, all in response to what you're feeling in that moment. That's what connection does. It takes sex from a physical activity to a living, breathing experience. And let's be honest, what makes him truly lose control is not just pleasure, it's intimacy. It's feeling chosen, wanted, desired in a way that feels unfiltered and real. Men, just like women, crave to be desired. They want to feel that their partner is not just going through the motions, but actually aching for them. When you let yourself surrender into the experience, when your body language screams, "I want you, right now," you light up something primal in him. Suddenly, he's not just in his head thinking, "This feels good." He's overwhelmed with the feeling of being deeply wanted. That is intoxicating. That is what makes him lose control. Think back to a kiss that took your breath away. Chances are, it wasn't because the person used a perfect kissing technique. It wasn't about the tilt of the head or the angle of the lips. It was about the intent behind it. The urgency, the softness, the depth, or the playfulness that communicated something real. Sex works the same way. When you allow yourself to connect, positions become a canvas for expression rather than a checklist of tricks. And this is where confidence comes into play. Confidence isn't about looking a certain way or having the perfect body. It's about owning the moment. It's about knowing that your presence, your touch, your energy is enough. When you step into intimacy with that mindset, you radiate something irresistible. Suddenly, even the simplest gesture, like holding his face, whispering something in his ear, or locking your gaze as you move, becomes unforgettable. You can make the most basic position feel like the most powerful thing in the world because you've infused it with connection. When you strip away the pressure to perform, you allow sex to become an exploration. You stop worrying about whether you're impressive and you focus on whether you're connected. That's the shift. That's where the magic lies. And ironically, that's what makes you impressive in the first place, because nothing is sexier than someone who's not just there physically, but is fully present emotionally and mentally. So when people ask, what positions make him lose control? The answer starts here. It's not about the position itself, it's about the connection you bring into it. Yes, certain positions might intensify sensations, but what really unravels him is feeling that he's not just with you physically, but that you're choosing him in that moment, that your attention, desire, and passion are all locked onto him. That's the difference between sex that's fun and sex that feels unforgettable. It's the little things within the position that matter, the way you look at him, the way your touch lingers, the rhythm you set that makes him feel like you're in sync, the way you let yourself go so he can feel your desire spilling over. That's what makes his heart race. That's what makes him lose control. Because in the end, bodies can come together in countless ways, but connection is what makes those moments linger in memory. Without it, sex is just an act. With it, even the simplest act becomes art. Confidence is one of those qualities that cannot be faked for long. You can pretend for a while, you can put on a mask, but but the truth always leaks out in the way you move, in the way you breathe, in the way you show up in intimacy. And when it comes to sex, confidence is the silent aphrodisiac that amplifies everything. It's not just about the way your body looks, it's about the way you own it. A person who feels at home in their own skin doesn't need to have the so-called perfect body to drive their partner wild. What makes someone magnetic in the bedroom is not flawless skin or magazine-worthy curves. It's the assurance that says, this is me, and I know I'm desirable. So much of sex is psychological. Desire lives in the mind long before it shows up in the body. That means confidence isn't just a nice accessory. It's the key to unlocking desire at the deepest level. When you walk into intimacy with confidence, you're not second-guessing yourself. You're not shrinking away, hiding parts of yourself, or getting trapped in a mental checklist of, am I doing this right? Instead, you allow yourself to fully participate. You show up not just as a body in the room, but as a presence that commands attention. That presence is what makes him lose control. There's a reason why even simple movements can feel irresistible when delivered with confidence. The slightest brush of your hand across his chest, the way you hold eye contact a second longer, the sound of your breathing when you're not afraid to let him hear how much you're enjoying it. All of these little things speak louder than any elaborate position ever could. Confidence turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. Without it, even the most acrobatic move can fall flat. With it, the simplest gesture becomes unforgettable. But confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean trying to dominate every moment or prove something. It's quieter than that. It's a calm certainty. It's the inner voice that says, I know I'm enough. I know I'm desirable. I don't have to be anyone else in this moment. That kind of self-assurance frees you from insecurity and allows you to be playful, adventurous, and vulnerable. All the things that make sex deeply exciting. When a man senses that kind of confidence, it does something primal to him. He no longer feels like he has to be the only source of energy in the room. He doesn't feel pressure to perform or impress because you're meeting him as an equal partner in desire. Your confidence gives him permission to let go. And that's when he loses control. Not just because of what you're doing physically, but because of the way you make him feel emotionally. You make him feel chosen. You make him feel desired. And there's nothing more intoxicating than being wanted by someone who is unapologetically sure of their own worth. Think of the difference between someone who hides under the sheets, waiting for the lights to be off before they move, versus someone who steps into the moment unashamed, unhurried, and unapologetic. One is operating from fear of being judged. The other is operating from the thrill of being alive in their own skin. Which one is going to leave a lasting impression? Which one is going to make a partner think, I can't get enough of this person? The answer is obvious. Confidence also creates space for play. When you're confident, you're not terrified of making a mistake. You're not frozen by the idea that something might not look perfect. You're able to laugh, to experiment, to be curious. That playfulness is unbelievably attractive because it makes intimacy feel less like a performance and more like an adventure. Men lose control not just because of the physical sensation, but because of the emotional roller coaster you take them on when you're unafraid to explore. And here's the beautiful paradox: confidence isn't about never feeling insecure. Everyone has insecurities. The difference is in whether you let them control you. Confidence is when you decide, yes, maybe I'm not perfect by the world's standards, but I am perfect enough to bring all of me into this moment. That mindset is far sexier than perfection, because perfection is intimidating, confidence is captivating. Even outside the bedroom, we see this truth play out. A confident smile, the way someone carries themselves, the ease with which they walk into a room. These things often draw more attention than someone who ticks every conventional box of attractiveness but lacks self-belief. In the same way, in sex, your belief in yourself is the spark that ignites everything. It sets the tone, it shifts the atmosphere, it turns physical closeness into something electric. Men are deeply responsive to confidence because it flips a switch in their minds. It tells them, this woman is not just giving me her body, she's giving me her energy, her passion, her trust. That's what overwhelms them. That's what makes them lose control. It's not just about being touched. It's about being consumed by someone who knows their own worth. So when people obsess over which positions make a man lose his composure, the truth is that almost any position can, if it's backed by confidence. The difference between good and mind-blowing has less to do with angles and much more to do with attitude. Own the space you're in, own the body you have, own the desire you feel. When you do that, you don't just participate in sex, you lead the experience into a place that feels unforgettable. Confidence is the secret ingredient. It's what turns movement into magic. It's what transforms closeness into connection. And it's what makes a man completely unravel, not because of what you're doing, but because of who you are when you do it. When desire is new, everything feels electric. The first kiss, the first time you touch, the first time you find yourself tangled up together. It feels effortless, like the chemistry is doing all the work. But as time goes on, familiarity sets in. What once felt like a spark can, without attention, start to feel routine. This is where variety becomes so important. It's not about collecting an endless list of positions or tricks to keep someone entertained. It's about keeping the spirit of curiosity alive. Variety is less about the physical act itself and more about the message it sends. It says, I'm still curious about you. I still want to explore you. I still see new ways to connect with you. That's what keeps desire alive. Think about it, routine in the bedroom is comfortable, but comfort can sometimes slide into complacency. When the same thing happens in the same way every time, it can dull the intensity of what was once thrilling. Variety shakes things up. It reawakens the senses and reminds you both that intimacy is not a script to follow, but an adventure to create together. It doesn't have to mean wild experimentation every single time. Even small changes, a different angle, a slower rhythm, a new environment, can transform an experience into something that feels fresh again. Men, just like women, are wired to crave novelty on some level. It doesn't mean he needs someone different. It means his mind responds powerfully when something feels new, unexpected, or surprising. When you shift things up in bed, you trigger that part of his brain that lights up with excitement. You remind him that there are still unexplored layers of passion between you. This doesn't just make the physical side better. It strengthens the emotional bond because it tells him, I'm invested in keeping our passion alive. I want to keep discovering with you. And variety doesn't always mean trying things that are extreme or uncomfortable. It's not about acrobatics, it's about playfulness. For example, changing positions isn't just about creating different sensations. It's about the change in dynamics. Sometimes you're closer, sometimes you're more exposed, sometimes you're in control, sometimes he is. Each shift tells a different story. Each variation allows you both to experience one another in a fresh light. That sense of contrast is what makes intimacy feel dynamic instead of predictable. What's really powerful about variety is that it communicates confidence and curiosity. When you're willing to explore, to try something new, you're showing that you're comfortable with your partner and excited to keep deepening the connection. That confidence alone is irresistible. It makes him feel that you're not afraid of vulnerability, not afraid of being adventurous, and that you trust him enough to let go of control sometimes. That trust is intoxicating. It's what makes him feel safe to lose himself with you. There's also a psychological layer to variety. When you change things up, you're not just stimulating the body, you're stimulating the mind. The brain craves novelty. It loves the feeling of anticipation, of surprise, of not knowing exactly what comes next. When you create that in intimacy, you keep him mentally engaged, not just physically aroused. And here's the truth, when the mind is involved, the body follows in ways that are far more intense. Think of it like music. If a song plays the exact same note on repeat, it quickly becomes boring, no matter how beautiful the note itself is. But when there are shifts, rises and falls, soft moments and intense bursts, the song comes alive. Intimacy works the same way. Variety is what creates those shifts, those crescendos and pauses, that turn a simple act into an experience that feels unforgettable. Men lose control not just because of physical stimulation, but because of the emotional ride you take them on. Imagine the difference between a predictable script and a playful improvisation. One feels safe but ordinary, the other feels exciting, alive, and unforgettable. When you embrace variety, you're essentially saying, let's write a new story every time we touch. That story is what keeps passion burning. And here's another truth. Variety doesn't always have to come from positions alone. It can come from your energy. Sometimes it's the way you look at him with hunger in your eyes. Sometimes it's the way you slow everything down until he's almost begging you to speed up. Sometimes it's about flipping the dynamic, where one night you're the one in control and the next you surrender completely. Each shift adds flavor. Each change creates a memory that stands apart from the last. This doesn't mean you need to pressure yourself into being a constant source of novelty. It's not about inventing a brand new experience every time. It's about bringing a spirit of exploration into your intimacy. That spirit alone is what makes the experience exciting. When you show up with that energy, he feels it. He feels chosen again and again, not just as a partner, but as someone you want to keep discovering. That makes him feel alive. That makes him lose control. At its core, variety is really about attention. It's about refusing to take each other for granted, refusing to let passion grow stale. It's about saying, I see you. I want you. I want to keep finding new ways to love you. And that is powerful. That is the kind of energy that keeps relationships thriving long after the initial spark. So yes, there are positions that can make a man feel overwhelmed, undone, completely lost in the moment. But what truly makes him lose control is not the position itself. It's the variety you bring to it, the willingness to shift, to play, to experiment. Because in the end, it's not about how many positions you know, it's about how many ways you're willing to rediscover each other. What makes someone truly lose control in intimacy isn't just the movement of the body. It's the way you capture their mind. The body can be satisfied, but the mind is what remembers. When you focus only on physical sensation, the experience might be fun, but it fades quickly. When you touch his mind, his imagination, his sense of being desired, that's when it becomes unforgettable. That's when he can't stop thinking about you long after it's over. So many people make the mistake of assuming sex is purely about what happens physically. They think if they can master the right positions, move in the right rhythm, or look a certain way, that's enough. But the truth is, physical pleasure is only one part of the experience. What really makes a man unravel is the mental and emotional dimension, the feeling of being wanted in a way that's undeniable. When he feels not just touched, but devoured, not just kissed, but consumed, that's when he loses all sense of control. The mind is the most powerful sexual organ we have. Everything starts there. Desire builds in anticipation, in imagination, in the little signals we send before the act itself even begins. A lingering look, a whisper that hints at what's coming, the playful delay that leaves him desperate. These are things that ignite the mind. And once the mind is engaged, the body follows with intensity. It's why sometimes the build-up before sex can feel just as powerful, if not more, than the act itself. Because when the mind is caught in the fire of desire, the body reacts on every level. This is why focusing on his mind is so powerful. When you show him not just that you want him physically, but that you crave him mentally and emotionally, you create an intoxicating loop. He feels seen, chosen, and desired beyond the surface. That taps into something primal, because every person, no matter how confident they appear, wants to feel deeply wanted. When he gets that from you, when he feels that his presence alone drives you wild, it flips a switch inside him. He's no longer just engaging with you, he's surrendering to the experience. And this doesn't take elaborate gestures. It can be as simple as the way you breathe in his ear, the way you hold his gaze without breaking it, or the way you say his name in a tone that makes him feel like he's the only man in the world. Those small things may not sound like much, but they're everything, because they bypass the body and go straight into the mind. They communicate not just attraction but hunger, not just interest but obsession. And when a man feels like he's the center of your desire, he can't help but lose control. Another layer of this is the contrast between physical closeness and psychological teasing. Sometimes what makes him unravel is not giving him everything at once. It's the pause, the delay, the tension that builds when you hold back just enough to make him ache for more. The mind thrives on anticipation. When you can stretch that anticipation, when you can make him imagine what's coming next before you give it to him, you create an experience far more intense than if you gave everything right away. But here's what makes this even more powerful. When you combine mental stimulation with physical touch, you create alignment. The body feels good, but the mind is lit up with meaning. It's no longer just about pleasure, it's about connection. It's about feeling chosen, desired, devoured. And that sense of being wanted goes deeper than anything physical ever could. Think of the difference between a kiss that's technically good and a kiss that leaves you breathless. The difference isn't technique, it's intention. It's the feeling behind it. When someone kisses you like they need you, like they can't get enough of you, it's unforgettable. Sex is the same. A position might feel good physically, but when you add intention, when you let him feel through your movements that you're craving him, it becomes something else entirely. Men often carry the weight of needing to perform, to impress, to satisfy. But when you take that pressure off by showing that you're fully invested in him, that you're not just participating, but passionately engaged, you unlock a side of him that's raw and unfiltered. He doesn't just lose control because of the pleasure, he loses control because of the meaning behind it. He feels not only desired but consumed. And here's where vulnerability plays its part. To really make him lose control, you can't be guarded. You have to let yourself go too. When he sees you lost in the moment, when he hears your breathing change, when he feels your body responding without restraint, it tells his mind that this isn't just sex, it's connection. That vulnerability is contagious. It pulls him into the same space where he forgets about control, performance, or pressure. He's just with you, caught in the intensity of the moment. So yes, positions can heighten pleasure, but what truly elevates the experience is how you engage his mind. It's the teasing, the intensity, the way you look at him like he's the only thing you want. It's the feeling that you're not just sharing your body, but your hunger, your obsession, your desire for him. That's what makes him weak in the knees. That's what makes him lose control. At the end of the day, the body will always respond to touch. But the mind, when the mind is captivated, when it's engaged, when it's made to feel wanted, will keep coming back for more. The memories linger, the desire deepens, and the bond grows stronger. That is the real secret. It's not just about the act. It's about the meaning, the hunger, and the connection you create in his mind. At the heart of it all, what makes him truly lose control isn't a specific move or position. It's the energy you bring into intimacy. It's the connection that transforms simple moments into unforgettable ones, the confidence that makes even the smallest gesture magnetic, the variety that keeps passion alive, and the way you capture not just his body but his mind. When you combine these, you don't just create pleasure, you create an experience that lingers in memory, makes him feel deeply desired, and draws him closer to you again and again.